So it's been quite a while since I've made a video, and I feel like this is gonna probably be one of the most important videos that I'm going to make. And I never thought I'd make this video, to be honest. I'm gonna be talking about why I dropped out of art school, what it's really like to be in a psychiatric facility in 2022. This is gonna be part one because I have no patience in editing, and I feel like there's a lot to digest in just one video, even though I did a poll and most people voted for a long form, but I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. I just want to give the preface that this is gonna be super heavy, and I wanted a message to mainly be about bringing awareness about mental health, about mental illness, because I feel like a lot of people talk about mental health awareness but don't really act upon it. It's like it's a problem with a lot of the things going on today, is that we talk about it but we don't act upon it. I want to give insight on the US's mental healthcare in general, and how we treat mentally ill people. This is no way in any shape or form meant to discourage anyone that is looking to get help. If you are watching this and you think you need help, please go ask for help. That may be admitting yourself to ER, finding psychiatrists, therapists, which is obviously extremely hard, but it is possible. Asking a friend, a relative, someone you love if you need help, because I'm pretty sure 100% that they will want to help you. But again, everyone has certain stigmas around mental health and views around mental illness and mental health, which is not always a positive thing, but I'm hoping this will bring some clarity and insight that mental illness can happen to anyone. Everyone has mental health. Some people take care of it, some people neglect it, some people don't even believe it exists. So massive trigger warning: depression, suicide, sexual assault, etc. So if that triggers you in any shape, way, or form, click off the video right now before I get started. I'm just gonna start with the events leading up to my first admission of the psych ward. I was sexually assaulted by my ex-boyfriend last year in December. Obviously that has a lot of trauma that comes with it. So I'm just gonna give them the spark note version because I don't like remembering it. I don't like talking about it. I don't like reliving it because I had to relive that for 4 months because I had to keep repeating it to Title IX and police and whatever. Basically, I was with my boyfriend. He sexually assaulted me. It took me a while to process it and to accept that someone that loved me would do that to me. And it took me like 3 days probably to be like, that was wrong. I didn't deserve that, and he actually did that. So there's a lot of things, nuances, details, okay? Basically, I left because I didn't feel safe, and instead of deciding to kill myself, I decided to take a one-way ticket to New York to stay with my friend. I think it's exactly what I needed at that moment. I think it was the best option for me because I did not feel safe here, home, near him. The police, my school campus police, obviously didn't believe me that I was in New York, first of all, and that this happened, but they took my report and opened a case for me even though I wasn't physically present, which is something they say they don't normally do. So Title IX report was made. If you don't know what Title IX is, it's the Office of Ethics and whatever they deal with, like discrimination, sexual assaults, things of that nature. It's a department that I believe is at every school now. They made it like a law or something. I was in New York for a week trying to figure things out, figure what I'm gonna do next. I knew I had to come back to California to obviously deal with everything. And on my way back from New York, on the plane ride back to California, I broke out in hives because I was so stressed out. I was so anxious. I was so traumatized with coming back to California that my body manifested physically into hives, and I thought I ate something that I was allergic to, but I went to the doctors after I came back and they're like, no, it's literally just because you're so stressed out, your body didn't know how to handle it and the trauma that you're going through. So I come back home and I'm obviously mentally a wreck, and I go to the hospital, to an emergency because of my hives, because I felt my throat closing in. My mom had to explain to them like what happened. I was going through like an assault, something traumatizing, and they evaluated me and they said I could start therapy basically to help me get through the trauma. So I started therapy, and I was only seeing the therapist like every 3-4 weeks, so pretty much every once a month basically. And if you see me looking down at my computer, it's because I'm looking at my notes. So this was like winter break time. I was still taking an online class despite everything that happened because it was my last year. It was my senior year. I was supposed to graduate. I missed one of my finals for musicianship. I was a music major. I failed that class because obviously, how am I supposed to focus when that happens to me? I can't. I'm literally in survival mode right now. I'm going through winter break. It was really hard for me. I found the support of my friends, tried to distract myself, make myself busy, just trying to live basically. My big concern was going back to school. I did not want to see this person. I did not want to be near him. Just thinking about him like made me panic, and I couldn't do it. I could not do it. Title IX would not do anything because they said they're an impartial party. They had to be neutral, even though they showed no neutrality whatsoever. My case manager was the worst person. No empathy, very cold, very heartless, not listen to me, put me down, was very passive aggressive in their emails, and really dug into my like lack of self-esteem now, because they basically told me it was my fault, and basically told me, how could he do this to you if he was your boyfriend? He can't assault you if you were his girlfriend. And I was like, and because I was on a substance, I was high. They were like, well, that's what happens when you're high. Just because I was under influence doesn't mean I deserve that. Like, hello? Going to spring semester and everything's not the way that I thought my last semester would go, and I had to show up to school, and my mom would have to drive me because I couldn't drive myself. I was so traumatized from my school. There's so many things that had gone on at this school. Just the way they treated me, the way they just handled things was just not good for my mental health whatsoever. I had professors that were like extremely abusive verbally, mentally. I just had it with the school. It was been nothing but bad, and I had to go to school and pretend like everything was fine, that I was normal. I had to be in the same vicinity as him, and it was mental torture. It was mentally torturing me. I had to push that down, because if I did not push that down, I would probably have been in a very worse place than I was. Not to say that it was the best coping mechanism, but it definitely caused me to suppress a lot of feelings that I had about myself. How I viewed myself, my self-concept, my self-esteem, just what I was deserving of. And before this relationship, I was single for 3 years, and I did that because that was from another breakup that was really bad. I forced myself to learn how to love myself and be content with myself and feel like I was enough for myself, that I didn't need a relationship to fill a void. But after this, it like completely destroyed everything that I had worked so hard on. It just made me feel like not a person. Basically, I had a lot of Title IX meetings, like literally every week, every 2 weeks. I was not being heard. No one was taking me seriously. My parents saw this. My parents were there and heard all of this. Like, it was very hard for everyone. Of course, this reopening, reliving it, reopening this wound all the time without taking steps to necessarily heal it. Now in therapy, I do it like once a month, and it'd just be like, we wouldn't talk directly, specifically, explicitly about the assault of what happened. We just talked about the things that were going on in the present, like things that I could do in the present to ease my mind a little bit. And I thought that it was working. So did my therapist. Came to a point where I was starting to do things that I like again, hanging out with my friends, trying to be normal while having this underlying like severely traumatic thing going on. It was like this severely traumatic thing going on the bottom, and then my normal life. So anything that like positive happened would get immediately crushed by this underlying trauma, which was dealing with Title IX in this case. That's what I was dealing with before all of this stuff happened. Thought that I was making so much improvement because I got a new job, I had all these internships, I was hanging out with my friends, I was getting things in music, I got accepted to this art school that I really wanted to go to, and I felt like I am not gonna let him ruin my life. I am not gonna let him ruin things that I love. Like on paper, I was doing good. On the outside, I was doing good. But when we looked at like my levels of anxiety, of depression, of PTSD, they were still off the charts. Like I think it only goes up to like 21 or something, and I was still past that because like I was literally off the charts. Like I was still in the red zone, which is not somewhere you want to be. It was incongruent with the progress that I was showing on the outside. Like I wasn't being antisocial, I wasn't isolating, wasn't just in a depressed state in my bed. I was out doing things. Like I would wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning, be out the whole day, come back maybe at like 12 a.m. and repeat this every single day. I was burning myself out. I was like, what are all these things that I can do to progress, because I felt like I not waste time, and I had this mentality that I'm this young only for this amount of time, which is true. I'm only gonna be 23 for this amount of time, and I didn't want this to stop my life. No one wanted that for me. No one wanted this to stop my life. Even though I felt like I would never come back for this, I felt like I would never love anyone again. I felt like the time, like, that was it, until I started pushing myself. And that's the only way I know how to get through things, is if I push myself, and if I just ignore it, pushing it down, it's gonna go away. If I don't acknowledge it, it's gonna go away. But that's not how it works. You have to acknowledge it. You have to process it for it to go away. Never really goes away, for you to better cope with it, I guess. I was supposed to graduate in the spring, and I could have walked, but I chose not to because I didn't want to walk with him, and it pains me all the time. I had to sit in a classroom and pretend like that didn't even happen. Like, it was just reinforcing every single day that I knew it happened. I know it happened, but I couldn't talk about it. There's no way for me to process it except in that time in therapy, and I didn't even fully process it during that time. It just tells me that schools are just a business. They're just about money. They're about reputation. They do not care. They are a corporation. It's so hypocritical that they make us have these Title IX training videos about what consent is and isn't every single year before we're allowed to register for classes. And this is how they treat us. When I made this public on my social media, on my story, I received so many DMs about people that have gone through the same thing, but were too scared to say anything in fear that they would not be believed, because that is scary. It is so scary putting it out there, chance that you might not be believed, which is a very high chance, because you're in the crossfire of what people think of you, what your school thinks of you, what you think of you, all these things that you're gonna have to deal with on top of the situation that happened to you. People were looking at me with a magnifying glass about anything they could find about me, to discredit me, discredit my character, especially when I said that I was under the influence, I was high. That made me look like I was this degenerate, that I was this horrible person, was promiscuous. He had this character of he's a good student, all the professors liked him, he never got into trouble, he has good grades. A guy like him is a good guy. He knew this. He knew that he had an advantage. And before this, we would talk about things like how I always felt like I was a disadvantage in the music department because I was a girl and I'm Asian, you know, like he's a white man, and he knew the advantages he had. He knew that. He would verbally tell me that he knew that teachers would let him get away with things because he was a good student, or he has a way with words to persuade people. Basically manipulative. I tried so hard to push it down, like I've said before. All of these things that I thought were gonna make my life better, I thought meant that my life was getting better, even though I knew mentally I was not getting better. I was getting worse. I was getting increasingly worse. And I have this thing where I'll get into later, but I was diagnosed with bipolar depression and even BPD. So 0 to 100, like I'm invincible. Like I go from 0 to 100. There's no middle ground, or 0 to negative 100. Like I am the lowest. I cannot control it. I just feel like I can't do anything right. There's no middle ground. I have no regulation of my moods, and that is something I've been dealing with for like a while, and I didn't really know it had like a name or that I was valid in that. I just thought I was just emotional or whatever. That's how I was dealing or not dealing with it, and it's very manic, very just like all over the place, just like go, like I need to do all of this, like hyper energy, even though I was so burnt out. And the thing was that I was aware that I was burning myself out, but I did not care, because I am the kind of person that if I don't do it, I feel like I'm not doing enough. Like I always have to be doing something, because it's not like me to not be doing something. That is not part of my character, not part of my personality, not part of me as a person. I have to always be doing something. I don't like wasting time, and I feel like if I gave myself a break, I'd be wasting time. It was getting increasingly hard dealing with Title IX. They are the worst people I've ever encountered in my life. They are so cold-hearted. They are terrible at their jobs. They have caused so much trauma, added trauma onto this. I came to the point where I was like, you know what? I need to drop out. I can't. I wanted to make that decision for myself, to be like, I need to not go to this school anymore, and I need to not be near him because it's too much. I felt like I was gonna break. But everyone around me was, you're so close, like you need to graduate, like don't let them ruin this for you, like you're so close, Kyra, like you need to do this. Like I made the decision to stay in that school, not for myself, but for everyone else. And I fell back into that same pattern where I did everyone else and not myself. I did it to please everyone else because I was in fear of what they would say, think that I'm disappointing them. It was out of my hands. I let it slip out of my hands. I let other people make the decision for me. I finished the last month of school, even though I could have taken a leave of absence. My reason was so valid to take a leave of absence. Didn't walk at graduation. I saw my other friends walk at graduation, and it was hard. It was really hard, but graduation came, left, whatever. So now it's summer, and I'm so relieved to be done with this school. Even though I still had like one class to finish, I was like, whatever, I'm done with this place. And I started really thinking like, okay, this new school, this art school is my saving grace. It's giving me my new chapter. It's exactly what I need. And I kept telling my therapist, it's exactly what I need. I'm looking forward to this new chapter in my life, and it's gonna be great. Summer has always been a time for me where I thrive. Even when I have hiccups here and there, I thrive in summer. Like it is my love summer. It has always been my favorite because something about the sun, something about being in California, beaches, just life. It just reminds me of life. I felt like this was a pivotal time of my life where I'd be going to art school, living on my own apartment. I'm getting all these shows for music, and everything was looking like it was turning up. But all this stuff that I had been through the past months, despite them not doing literally nothing, he got no repercussions, nothing. They did absolutely nothing. And you know what? He didn't have to sit through those Title IX meetings. He didn't have to like struggle getting through class because you're literally having a breakdown in a Title IX meeting because they keep breaking you down constantly. You gotta live a normal life. He gotta walk and graduate. It was my right to walk and graduate and feel safe. So now I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna do all these things, you know. And then now I had a new relationship. I was like, he's so good, like I love him so much. This was how it's supposed to be. But he didn't know how to handle my mental illness, my trauma in general, because no one does. And I don't blame him for that, because we both weren't ready for the relationship. We both kind of pushed it aside. We both kind of said like, it's fine, even though we're both terrified. I am impulsive. I have no patience. None. There's not a single patient bone in my body. I have no, and I want things now, like right now. Like it has to happen now or never. Like I will make it happen. Like I will not wait for someone to make things happen. I will do it myself. So I was like, now or never. It's like we're gonna either be together or we're not gonna talk. So then of course he was like, didn't want to lose me, so then we got together. So now I'm like, it's summer, it's great, you know, whatever. And I still have all this unhealed trauma. Relationship with unhealed trauma just obviously brings problems. I did not have any self-concept of myself. I did not love myself, and my person would often say that he didn't want someone that didn't love themselves, and it was hurtful. My mind constantly told me he's gonna leave, he doesn't love me, he hates me, or like I'm not good enough for art school, I'm not gonna be good enough, or like even my internships, oh my god, they hate me, they don't like me, they don't think what I'm doing is valuable. Like constant negative thoughts in my brain. And it's something I constantly reaffirmed literally every single day, and believe firmly that your thoughts are your reality. Whatever you think is going to manifest, consciously, subconsciously. It is going to manifest. It just is. You say something enough, it's going to be true. I knew something was wrong. I didn't feel like myself at all. And despite like I got all these shows, it's like, why aren't I happy? Why wasn't this enough for me? I have all these things that I've ever wanted in my life, but I still felt like it didn't mean anything. I went to bat for LA, like with my whole being. I defended LA to my grave, but LA chewed me up and spit in me, and I thought I was ready for her. I wasn't, but that's okay. I love LA still, I really do. I know it's where I'm meant to be, but New York is also a place I know I'm meant to be. LA has my heart. It was hard to be like, the city that I love is so cruel. It is so cruel. The people that I was around at this art school come from money. Topanga Canyon, Laurel Canyon, name another canyon, Beverly Hills, like people that came from money. I lived in the apartment that was like co-signed with the school, so I wouldn't have to pay rent the way I normally would in an apartment, but it was in my tuition. So I took out $50K in loans because I did not get any financial aid, which is a whole different topic on the school system. It was so stressful. It was stressful on me, on my family. My mom was like, I cannot support you anymore. Like, you have to figure out your own finances. So that was stressful because like I worked in West Hollywood. My school was in Westchester, so then it was still a drive. It wasn't an hour and a half drive. It was a half-hour drive now, thankfully. So I thought the commute would like help my stress levels ease a little bit because I was making the commute from San Gabriel Valley to WeHo. Hey, I can do this. Like, I'll go grocery shopping. I also had a meal plan to eat at school still. I would have to designate like gas money, blah, 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 which I was doing it for a bit, but it definitely was stressful to delegate my finances like that, which I was like, I'm gonna have to get used to because it's adult life, you know. So I started going to classes, and it was really hard to like focus in these classes because I didn't have the materials that I needed. It was really embarrassing for me to tell the professors like I can't afford the materials required right now because I don't get paid until next week. And even when I do get paid, I have to put that towards gas money and like food. Also, I'm older than all of these people. A lot of them just graduated high school. So I was like in the freshman classes, even though it was like a transfer. I shouldn't feel ashamed about it, but my professors were very understanding, most of them. And they gave me like resources, and a lot of them were like, you need to get another loan. And I was like, I can't do that. I already took like 50K out. The reality was sinking in. And it was also really hard for me to adjust because I've always had my own room, spoiled, yes, and I've never had to share a room. I was privileged in that way. I never had to share a room in my life. So I was sharing a room with my roommate, but like she was so nice, like nothing against her, but it was really hard for me to adjust to that. So I had 3 other roommates I had to share with, and I invited my friends over, you know, and I had like a little argument with one of my roommates about having people over or whatever. So it's really hard to adjust, and I couldn't really show how I was feeling. Like, I couldn't just come in my room like how I can do now and just like cry whenever I'm feeling bad or whatever. So there's a lot of things I still had to keep in. My therapy is in San Gabriel Valley, so I missed my therapy appointment because my therapy appointment was at 8 a.m. and I was like, I am not waking up at 6 to drive from Westchester to West Covina. Like, it is not gonna happen. Like, I cannot do it. There's all these things going on. My work, you know, I was getting a little stressed out, even though I love my work. I love my job. I was training to be buyer, and there's a lot of pressure in being a buyer because you're using the money's finances, basically money, to bring in things that you are assuming is going to sell. And it's a position I've always wanted, and I worked so hard to get. It was getting to me that my position was valuable. Also, with 3 internships that I was juggling, having like a fashion internship to do this fashion show with a designer, and then this other internship that was also with another designer that was in Venice, the other one was in Hollywood, and then this social media thing that was going with the social media app. Like, I was running myself to the ground. Not to mention, I was getting booked for all these shows, and they were paid, but not a lot. And I'd have to drive from Westchester to Chino Hills to practice at my friend's house, basically from LA County to the IE. Like, it was a 3-hour drive on top of the school stuff I was doing, on top of my internships, like on top of my failing relationship, because we would get into so many arguments literally all the time about me, and my insecurities would seep in. My insecurities would make me be like, no, you hate me, no, you don't love me, you don't want me, you're going to leave. Constant, always constant. And not to say there weren't any good moments, there are a lot of good moments. Averaging it was not sustainable. It was not sustainable. Nothing about my life at that time was sustainable. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Came to a point where I told my boyfriend, I was like, I think I need to drop out. I think I need to not go to school at this school. And of course he was like trying to be encouraging, trying to be like, no, you can do it, like you can totally do it, like I believe in you, you're so talented, blah blah blah, you know, being encouraging. So he came over to my place, and then we were arguing because he wanted to break up, and I kept saying like I didn't want to break up, and it went to this whole episode, right? And so now we get into the part where I get admitted to the first facility. I won't go into detail of the breakup just for their privacy. Even though some people are gonna laugh at me when I say that, but it was a bad breakup. Let's just put it that way. Very ugly. 98% due to me because I can't handle anything. I was going through a mental breakdown, a literal mental crisis, a little mental breakdown, and I do not believe that people who are mentally ill get a pass for being a shitty person. It does not give you a pass. It does not hold you free of your actions, of how you treat people, of anything, okay? But also, it was not a good time for me to go through a breakup because it was not about us. It wasn't about us. It was about how I was feeling about school. So that's why it was also really irritating that he continued to make it about us. Anyways, so I tell him to drop me off at LAX airport. I don't have any of my stuff. I realize that, and I'm like, okay, well, I can't get out, and I wasn't gonna get out of the car. Long story short, the police get involved, and they are separating us, and they're talking to me, and I remember this moment, like, it was really surreal. I've never had this experience before, but I saw my boyfriend talking to police, and then I was talking to police officers, so she was like right here, okay? So this is like the female police officer, and this was exactly how I was facing her. So I was looking at her, I was looking at him, and I was looking at the traffic because we're at an airport, at a terminal. It's busy. So my brain was so intrusive that it was like, run into traffic. Just do it. So I did. And the car stopped. So I was like, all right, well, I'll go over this barricade. So there's like, you know, like the barricades, and LAX is pretty like windy. So there's like a road, and there's like under it, like you literally go up like that. I don't know if that made any sense. But I was like, okay, well, I'll keep finding a way then. But the police officer, you know, like grabbed me, like held me by my arm and was like, caught me, obviously. And I was like, you need 5150 me, I need help, I'm gonna kill myself. So I'm pretty sure that he didn't, I don't know if he saw this happen. I don't really know. I wasn't really looking when this happened, but his back was like basically towards me because they have it so you don't look at each other. Not really sure it was pretty loud anyway, but you know, pretty sure he saw it. And they grabbed me, they handcuffed me, and put me against the wall, and I just see him drive off. So I'm handcuffed. They're telling me, okay, we're gonna get you the help that you need. And at first they're like, are you just doing this because you're trying to get out of it, blah blah blah. And I was like, are you serious? I'm telling you, I want to kill myself. You saw me, and you're like, what men police officers mind. I get put in this all black SUV car, and it's the first time I've ever been arrested, okay? Not really detained or legally arrested, but I was in handcuffs. So I am in this police car that's all black, and I'm sitting there cuffed like this, and there's like a camera, and I'm like, you know, like, okay, well, this can't get any worse. I'm pretty sure they called my dad or my parents or whatever, told them know what was happening. So I keep telling them I have Kaiser, and they were like, oh, well, you don't have your wallet on you, you don't have any identification. I was like, yeah. And then people always ask me, how are you gonna get a plane ticket? And I was like, because I thought I had my wallet and my phone in my pocket. When you're in a state the way that I was, you're not gonna be thinking about that. I'm sorry, you're just I didn't. Whether that seems believable or not, I didn't think about it. All I was thinking was that I wanted him to stay. That was all my end goal, was for him to stay. And to that, I said that I would have bought a plane ticket on my phone, just like I did before, and again, I was trying to choose New York. I was trying to choose a better option than killing myself. I didn't have that option this time, so I was like, great, I guess that means I'm supposed to kill myself. And I never had an urge so strong to do that. It was really scary, It frightened me, it frightened my family, my friends, everyone, because it is a very frightening thing that your life could be gone like that. And I talk about it in so nonchalant because it's like I'm so desensitized to it. Very few times I will cry when I'm talking about killing myself or thinking about it. It's because I'm so desensitized, and I feel like especially Gen Z, even though I don't really identify with Gen Z and millennials, I'm too old to be Gen Z, too young to be millennial. I feel like we have so many self-deprecating jokes about like killing yourself and about mental illness, like so quirky. Like me and my friend group are guilty of this as well. And having so many self-deprecating thoughts, even in jest, even in joking, does reflect how you view yourself. And I'm not to say that it's not okay to have like dark humor or to like, you know, have a little poke at yourself, because if you don't, like, you need to be humble. You do need to be humbled sometimes. It's not good to be vain. But anyway, I went off for a little bit. I kept telling them I had a Kaiser. They're like, no, we're gonna take you to this facility in Culver City. So I was like, whatever. So my police officers that escorted me were super nice, like so funny, and they made my time as bad as it was very interesting. So I show up to this facility. It's called Exodus Facility in Culver City. It's urgent psychiatric help, I think, like a 72-hour place, so no one really stays there over 72 hours. They like transfer you to another facility or they discharge you. So I was still handcuffed. I was sat outside on a chair until they were ready for me, and I go in. They give me the grippy socks. Hate the grippy socks. They ask me questions. The security guard's there checking my belongings in. I have to change into a gown, whatever. Take me to the back room. So now I'm in this facility, okay? And it was not what I expected. I feel like a lot of times in Hollywood and in movies, there's this glamorous depiction, romanticized depiction, I should say, about what the psych ward is like. It's supposed to be like so edgy, and like the only thing I can reference is like the Joker, even though I feel like it does give like a good message about our mental health. It still romanticizes a lot, which it's a movie, it's Hollywood, understandable, but still I feel like a lot of people have this pre-connotation of what mental health wards look like. So I go in, and it's basically a nurse's unit in the middle, and on the right side is females, on the right side is men's side. All I had was a reclining chair, a brown reclining chair with a sheet over it and like 2 blankets, and they're like, okay, pick a chair. Is this just like where I stay right now, or like do I get a bed? There's no beds, just a chair. I only had a reclining chair. I was like, all right. And I'm looking around, I'm seeing all the people, various mental illnesses, you know, like a lot of people came in because they did want to hurt themselves, or they did try to take their life. Others people were schizophrenic, other mental disorders, split personality disorder, etc. Some of them were a little more violent. Yeah, not a very good place to be in. So I go to my chair. There's like a big TV on each side, and I did not eat for the day that I was there. And there was one payphone, and you're allowed to calls, but you're not allowed paper or pen, obviously. And the restroom is like no mirror. It was just like bolted, like reflective metal, no trash cans, nothing. There was a shower. I had to pee in a cup, obviously for a drug test and whatever. It was an experience. So I called my parents. I tell them what happened, and they tell me they love me, that they're gonna like see if they can come and drop me off stuff to visit me. I'm on a 72-hour hold. So 5150, basically you're trying to hurt yourself or someone else, and you need put on hold until you're no longer a danger to yourself or other people. Within the hour, I'm like calling all my friends. I'm telling my mom to give me my friends' numbers, and I had to like retrace it on the phone pad so I could like remember it, because I can't write anything down. So I have all my friends calling me. I'm the only one in that facility that was making phone calls, and I could tell the nurses were getting annoyed. I think that I always found like really disturbing is that when you're in like a hospital, my dad said this too because he nearly like died in like code red because of his spleen or whatever. You could be dying, and these nurses are still talking about what they had for lunch, like so nonchalant, like so detached from the current situation that you're in. It makes you feel more crazy. Like I felt so weird listening to these people like talk about whose baby's gonna have whose baby, or like who's getting married, or their kids or whatever. Like, I get that it is a very taxing job. It's not for everyone. That's crazy. Like, I always found that like really disturbing anytime I was in the hospital for whatever reason. It was usually for like obviously bad health reasons or whatever, but this time it was like because I tried to kill myself, and I'm listening to someone talk about what they ate for lunch for like 20 minutes. Like, you're around people who are mentally ill, you know? But I get it. You have to kind of be desensitized to it. I understand. I'm gonna have to probably wrap up this video pretty soon because I have to leave soon, so there'll be a part 2. Basically, I got seen by a psychiatrist within like the first 2 hours or whatever. There's an older lady, an older white woman, and she basically told me, well, I told her about this, told her everything I just told you leading up to this point, and she basically told me that how could he do that if he's my boy? Okay, Title IX, being so awful, like telling me that it was my fault, like, well, you knew the situation you're getting into. Why did you do that? So you're saying it's my fault. And you're a psychiatrist, and she told me she went to school for music too. Should have stayed in music. Also, musicians should not be psychiatrists. He basically just like is blaming me. A lot of shaming. You know, some things she was right, that I need to be responsible for my actions and things like that. When she told me like, oh well, like, yeah, your school's right because how could you do that if he was your boyfriend? I was visibly getting agitated. I was starting to cry, and she was like, why are you being so hostile? Why are you being so defensive? And it's like, because you're telling me my assault was deserved. So we had probably talk about it for like half an hour, and she's writing all whatever down, and she's like, well, I'm gonna give you Seroquel. It will help you with your sleep. And she told me like for PTSD. So I was like, okay, cool. So I go back in my chair, make my last phone calls, whatever, don't eat anything, take Seroquel, knock out. Now, I haven't gotten sleep, a full 8 hours of sleep since that moment, since December basically. Did not sleep, could not get a full night's rest, and that was the first time I got a full night's rest, despite the situation I was in, despite everything that just happened, despite the environment I was in. I did not sleep was something I struggled with, and when I told my therapist, it was because I had nightmares. I was just so anxious, I couldn't get my mind to shut off, and it was because obviously because of the assault. I fall asleep, and I wake up the next day, and they're telling me that the other psychiatrist would see me. So I see the psychiatrist, younger man. I tell him basically everything I told the psychiatrist yesterday. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna prescribe you Lexapro and Seroquel, and you're good to go basically. So I was like, great. So he told me the social worker's just gonna talk to me and we'll figure out all my stuff or whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. So my mom and one of my best friends, he comes with my mom to pick me up when I get discharged. And you know, I was like so relieved to get out, and I felt like I could start this medication. I feel like things would be better, and you know, like, I thought it would be a step in the right direction. Like, I thought this would be, you know, it. And so I talked to social worker, whatever, and they get my discharge papers, and then luckily I looked at the paper and it's a prescription, and his diagnosis was mood disorder, but he wanted me to get evaluated by my own psychiatrist from Kaiser to get a better diagnosis because they're the ones that can be seeing me and my therapist and whatever. So I look at the prescription I'm prescribed, and it says Seroquel in Benadryl. I could buy Benadryl Benadryl. Luckily, I was like, let me listen to my mama and like recheck this. And good thing I did, because I would have got the wrong medication, which would end up not even would end up not even matter. My grammar, I'm illiterate, I didn't finish school. I was like, I'm prescribed Lexapro and Seroquel, and they're like, or asked a psychiatrist, so they think I'm lying for whatever reason. And they're like, oh yeah, it is Lexapro, but do you know how much it was? I was like, no. So they just they didn't even put any milligrams, they just put Lexapro. So I was like, great. And so they're like, okay, you're able to pick this up at your Kaiser pharmacy, whatever one that you use. And I was like, okay, cool. So I get discharged. It's very emotional to see my mom and then my best friend there. And then first thing we do when I'm out, put on Solana Del Rey and go to Monty's. So we eat at Monty's, the one in Culver City that's close by. And then we go home because we're gonna have like a little meeting with my friends. All my friends wanted to see me, obviously, and you know, be supportive. And my best friend I was driving with told me that my ex had called him and told him to make sure that I was okay. So I was like, well, that's kind of nice, I guess. And I was just so heartbroken and hurt that they would leave me at like my darkest time. And I was still obviously hurting from that. There's a lot of things I needed to deal with, and just getting food in my system and being around people that loved me was the first step. So basically I get home, my friends come over, I relay everything that's happened, and my mom tells me, your school is basically saying they're gonna kick you out if you miss another day of school. And I was like, did you tell them I was 5150? And my mom was like, yeah, even then they won't let you like miss school. And I was like, I can't take a leave of absence. And she's like, no, they're really strict about attendance. What? And it was a Thursday and I had school at 8 a.m. on Friday, and they're expecting me to go to class. Something's wrong with that, I think, a little bit. And I think it's kind of illegal to not let me take a leave of absence due to mental health reasons. But I got an email like a week ago saying that leave of absence was in progress, so update later. But at this time they're telling me I could not take a leave of absence, and they basically told me yeah, I was gonna get kicked out if I missed one more day of school. And they said like my professor or someone reported me to watch me or something, and they said like you have to make a decision if you're gonna move out by tomorrow by 5 p.m. we'll give you 75% of your rent back, which was obviously better than nothing. So I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to drop out, because there's no way I was mentally capable to do this. Not like last time. If I do this, I'm repeating the same thing that happened last time. So it was really hard for me to decide. It was literally day of my dischargement from the facility, to decide all these life-altering things that would happen in such a short amount of time. So me and my friends were sitting down and they're like, you know what, if you need to, you can. If you need to, you can. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna withdraw my attendance, which means I'm gonna have to be paying back my 50K as soon as I withdraw. I just blew 50K that I don't have. I feel like a failure. I felt like a complete failure. That I put my mom through that to take out these loans, financial stress. Felt like a failure. But I knew I had to do it for my sanity, because the school was like, oh, we can let them drop one in class. I have 3 studio classes that were 6 hours long and 2 lecture classes that were like 2 hours long. And they're like, oh, we'll let them take 10-minute breaks. I can't tell you how long my panic attacks are gonna be. I can't time them and be like, oh, 10 minutes is up, I have to go back to class. Like, being in art school, I feel like they should know how artists are, you know, like a little bit. Next day I move out of my apartment, get all my stuff, then I go to make my way to work. I explained to my manager like what happened, even though like the police officer like called them when I got into the facility. I was supposed to work that day, and I had them call my manager to be like, Kara's not coming in today. So my manager was so appreciative that I did that despite everything that I was going through. But it's just like, I just feel like they should know, you know. So saw my managers, so supportive. Like, they're like, we don't normally do leave of absence, but we can ask HR if they could do that. And I was like, thank you so much. Go home, tried to unpack everything. But I forgot to mention that the first day that I was discharged, my mom went to the Kaiser pharmacy. They didn't have my meds. they said, oh, there's no medication in our name. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna call them the next day. So the next day was the day when I moved out and got all my stuff and went to work. So I called them and I said, my meds aren't there. I had them ordered from a facility. And they said, we don't have them, but we can make you a therapy appointment. Okay, like, all right. So I was like getting really frustrated, and you know, I was trying to cope, seeing my friends do things, but I was feeling so bad, like complete state of just despair and hopelessness, and just digging myself in a rut in my mind, being like, this is never gonna get better, this is never gonna get better, my life is over. How do I come back from this? I don't. That leads us into the next facility that I get admitted to. So mind you, this is in 1 week. So by now, it's Friday. And I'm having these thoughts. I still don't have my medication yet. So the next day will be Saturday. Oh, there's something in my hair. The next day will be Saturday. And that's where I will continue the next video. But yeah, so that's precursor into the next video. Hope you guys, I don't want to say enjoyed it, but like this is where we're at right now. So so I gotta go actually. My friend Zach pulled up. But yeah, I hope I see you guys next video. Let me know thoughts, any of your experiences, comments. Please be kind. I will be deleting negative ones. But yeah, I will talk to you guys next video. Bye.